This episode is brought to you by Lumina Growth Lab. At Lumina, we help professional learning and development consultants who are struggling with steady lead flow, consistent bottom line revenue, and scalability so they can finally have healthy margins, make more strategic decisions, and ultimately take their business to the next level. Most of the times, our clients come to us frustrated because nothing seems to work outside of word of mouth or referral based growth. But with the right strategy and support, they're able to confidently add new channels of lead generation that create sustainable revenue and year over year growth for cheaper than ever before because of the use of AI technologies. If that sounds like you or someone you know, connect with me on LinkedIn and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about unlocking your business's potential. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Marketing Matrix. I'm your host, Lisanne Murphy. I am so excited to be here with you guys today. Today I have the talented and wonderful and multifaceted man of the hour, Mr. Matt Dentino. Matt, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm happy to be here. Excited.
Guys, I met Matt recently, and seriously, I've never, there are very few people where you get together and you start chatting and it's like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe how much time has passed. And I'm just perpetually intrigued by this man. Like even our few minutes together before we hit the record button, he shared some fascinating insights about what he's doing is in his real life. And so outside of work is what I mean by that. And so anyway, I am so excited for him to share his story and what he's all about on the podcast today. So before I give him the mic, I want to take a second to introduce this powerhouse here. After earning a bachelor's in education from Miami University and a master's in computer science from the University of Cincinnati, Matt spent decades advancing in industrial automation, first at Entech Scientific and then leading Rockwell Automation's predictive maintenance software marketing team, and most recently, scaling IIoT inside sales for Advantech in North America. After he retired from corporate America, he retired with BrainTrust, and along the way, he deepened his passion for teaching and communication with certifications from Covey, Carnegie, and Ziegler, plus a credential in the neuroscience of world-class communication. Outside work, Matt runs multiple marathons, acted professionally around the globe, and fronts a 70s cover band on the weekend. See, I told you guys, this guy, it's like he has like multiple lives that he's living at once. He brings the same dedication and humility to his coaching, helping executives and sales teams become world-class communicators who connect with clarity, empathy, and purpose. So again, guys, wherever you're listening, in your kitchen, in your car, give a round of applause and welcome Matt to the show today.
Thank you very much. That was a great intro, and I appreciate that. When I do the '70s cover band, I have much more hair, just so that people know if they're wondering.
That's amazing. I love it. I need to, you need to put the links. I'll make sure you give me the links to that and I'll drop that in the episodes as well if someone really wants to follow that. So for people who don't know you, Matt, like give us a background of like who are you? Like the what and why are you doing what you're doing today?
Well, who am I? What really is at the core of who I am is where I came from. I'm from a big Italian family, and so I'm the seventh of 10 kids. My parents were very intentional when they met and got married. They wanted to have a big family, and they had settled on 8 kids. Well, they overachieved. They had 10 kids, so I've got 3 younger brothers. But so I grew up in just a big family, and you have to learn a lot about people when you're never alone. I shared a room with my brothers until I was a senior in high school. I never had my own room. It was 2 or 3, sometimes as many as 4 of us sharing the same room and climbing over each other and multiple bunk beds and all that kind of stuff. But I set that up that way to tell you biggest influence on my life, and the person that probably set me on the path that I'm on today is my dad. He was my hero in life. Passed away 16 years ago. Still want to be able to pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Dad, I got a question for you," because there was so much wisdom in there. And here's the big one: as we were growing up, Dad was working for Caterpillar Tractor Company, and he was traveling the world in their sales and marketing team, and so he's gone a lot. And he knew that was going to impact his ability to really raise the big Catholic Italian family that he and Mom wanted to raise. So he intentionally created activity that we could do together. And so that when he was in town, he had really great quality time together. Most people would have, bought canoes and gone fishing or, uh, done different vacations. My dad was different. Dad came from a family of entertainers back in the old country. They immigrated from Italy to America, but they were singers and dancers and vaudeville performers. And so Dad put together the Dancing Dentino Family Act. And from the time I was 5 years old until I was in college, we traveled around the Midwest doing revising and reviving old vaudeville routines and tap numbers, a tap challenge with the drum set where one of the brothers would tap out a rhythm on the drums and we would mimic that with our taps and all kinds of stuff like that. Our big claim to fame, we performed at a Heart of Illinois fair one year where the MC was Arlen Sanders, the original Colonel Sanders, and one of the other groups on the docket that day were the Osmond brothers. Here's another point I'll make. My dad's intention wasn't for us to become the next Osmond family. It was to become a really connected family. And he did that with this routine. And looking back on it as a kid, this was not my bag. I mean, well, it was my bag. It was what I was born into. And so I really, looking back on it, absolutely enjoyed it. But as a 5 and 6 and 7-year-old on Saturday mornings, I wanted to watch cartoons. I didn't want to be grabbing tap shoes, going down to the basement to that hard gray cement floor and tapping shin splints into my legs because we would do that. We had a Tuesday evening rehearsal that we would go to the dance studio that my great aunts ran, and we would learn all the routines there. And then Saturday mornings, Mom would wake us up with a big bacon and egg breakfast, and then we'd grab tap shoes and go down the basement, and Dad would have us down there tapping away, practicing the routines and learning the stuff. And here's the point. He had a way of running those rehearsals that he would work with the older kids first, and then he would pair up an older kid with one of us younger kids, and we would work on the step or the routine or whatever it was until we got it. And when I look back on that now, what I see is the three major tenets of my dad's life was what he was demonstrating to us kids, though we didn't realize it at the time. Family, most important relationship you can have on this planet. Service to others, the most important thing you can do with the time that you have on this planet. And when you leave, that legacy is the fact that you were dedicated to those first two. I see that now as an adult. I see that as my dad's legacy. And that old song, The Leader of the Band, Dan Fogelberg, every time I hear that song, that makes me cry because I think that was my dad. Thundering velvet hand, and he was the leader of the band. And I am literally a living legacy to what he left for each of his 10 kids, who today his process worked, because today I have 9 best friends. We get together, we blow up our family text all the time, daily, literally, with things that are happening with the family. We've got, at last count, there are over 100 of us, just my 10 brothers and sisters, our spouses, and all the nieces and nephews or mom and dad's grandkids. There are over 100 of us that mom and dad left behind with that message: family, dedication, and service to others.
Love that so much. I love the foresight that your father had to create that within your family. Like a piece of the story that Matt told me when we were first meeting, and he was telling me about him, is that his dad traveled a lot, and so he had very little time, and so he had to maximize the time that he had. And I think it's really remarkable, especially given the fact that there was 10 of you, right? I mean, that's not an easy task to manage those like keeping 10 people alive, let alone like having a relationship and like creating a culture within your family. Like that's no small task. And so it speaks to the testament of the man that he was. And I'm sure that your mother was equally as instrumental in the glue and keeping it all together. So I really appreciate you sharing that piece from your depths. So you're now working with BrainTrust. Like, give us a little bit of the background in terms of like what are you doing with BrainTrust right now? What is BrainTrust doing in the world? Give us a background with that.
Yeah, so BrainTrust is a communication skills-based consulting firm. We If I were to break it down for you in its simplest terms, is we using neuroscience and behavioral psychology, we work with people to become world-class communicators, both internally and externally to their companies. So we work with smaller companies, small businesses, but we also work with enterprise, global, multinational, Fortune 50 companies, and we work with their leadership on their internal communication skills to help create that connection and culture that helps businesses thrive and helps to turn off or slow down that revolving door spigot of people being disengaged and leaving companies because they can. And since COVID and since that kind of awakening of people saying, life's short, and I don't want to be stuck in a job where I feel like I just have to keep my head down and not make waves for a paycheck. I want to go do something I want to go do. So we work with that internal communication up and down with what we call neural coaching, and we work externally with that sales side of things, teaching salespeople how to bring their authentic self into that situation and how to really connect with people before they start trying to transact with them, because that's our training. All the years of training that I had, 35 years of being in sales and marketing and doing all that training in corporate America, it was find something to connect, look for something in the office that, oh, you've got a picture of a sailboat on the wall. I drink water. Hey, we have a great connection over water. So now that I've made this great connection with you, let me tell you what I can what I can sell you. And that just, when you look at the biology, physiology, and psychology of the human brain and how people connect, that just totally goes against all of human nature. And so what BrainTrust has done is brought human nature back into communication. So we train people on how to connect. And that's why I'm here. I did retire from corporate America and refire with BrainTrust because of that. Back to my dad's story. He taught me that service to others was the most noble thing you can do. Well, sales is really nothing other than service to others. I can help you with something that I have, a product, a service, or if you're a leader, leadership is nothing more than service to others. It all revolves around service to others. And when you keep that in mind, I'm a big proponent of Zig Ziglar. My dad used to listen to Zig tapes in the car whenever we were going anywhere. So as a 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, 13-year-old kid, I was listening to Zig on replay all the time. And Zig would say, one of his most famous quotes that I love is that sales is nothing but a transference of feeling. And when I can get you to feel about my product the way I feel about it, you'll be willing to talk to me. But then he also added to that, another quip of his was that I'm trying to think of how exactly that he would say it. You can have everything you want in life if you'll help enough other people get what they want in life. Again, it goes back to service to others. And it's not what you get by performing that service, but it's what you become along the way of helping others through that service.
I love that. I love that. And so I didn't read it wrong. It was right. It refired. Okay, good. Because I was like, my brain like had a short circuit there for just a minute. So, but I love that transition. Like you couldn't stay away. Like that service pillar that you talked about from your dad, like it's very strong in you, I can tell. When you were sharing your story of like with sales, like connecting anything to the person to create a connection, it reminded me so much of I served a mission for my church. And so for 18 months, I went knocking doors to see anyone that wanted to talk about Jesus Christ. And I remember knocking on those doors, and as soon as it would open, my eyes were quickly scanning the background to find something that was relatable to keep the door open, right? And keep the conversation going. And so I love that example because it instantly transported me back to being a missionary in my 20s and learning how to talk and communicate to people by creating that connection. So I love that you're all about the humanity and the emotional piece of communication, but you're bringing in neuroscience and psychology to do it. So it's like this blend of emotional truths and science truths of like how the brain wires and how it works. So cool. I love what BrainTrust does. It's fantastic. So, and what specifically is your role with BrainTrust? What role do you play in the organization?
So we're a fairly small consulting firm, so everybody wears lots of hats. I am the director of our velocity coaching, which is some of our small business coaching. I also run a program that we do for all our enterprise customers, our Fortune 50 customers, that we call Decoding the Mind of the Customer. And in that, I literally reach out, we'll sign a contract with one of our big corporate companies, and we will have them give us names of clients, and I will go out and interview those clients and find out what their goals are, what their role is, what's important to them, what drives them, what challenges they have, what's a day in the life like, so that when we come back into the corporate environment and we start doing some of this training for them, we're training them specifically on what's important to the people that they're going in and talking to. That's part of the key. Is when the brain is such that we're, from the time we wake up in the morning to the time we go to bed at night, we're in self-preservation mode. That's what people do, and it's just natural biological. When we're in sales situations, we have a tendency to do the same thing. We fall back on those things that are most natural and most comfortable to us, and what happens is that we get into a rut of sales habit, a communication habit. And we have a tendency to speak more about our product or service or what we can do than to speak to the person about what's important to them and what they need, and the problems that they have and encounter, and how they actually adjust to them. We don't speak on their agenda, we speak from our agenda. And so that's part of one of the things I do, is help put together that program, that when we go into these other companies, these Fortune 50 companies, we try and help train them to rethink that conversation piece. Don't speak to your potential client or client from your agenda. What is their agenda? What's important to them? What are their goals? And what are their challenges? And talk to them about what's important to them, not what's important to you. Don't go in with my needs analysis, 20 questions. Go into them informed about what's important to them and start the conversation there. It makes a world of difference to how they open up and how they then start to have more of a dialogue with you, instead of a sales monologue.
Love that. And I've experienced that shift in my own business even in the last year. Like for the first 5 years of my agency being in existence, I was a Facebook ads person. So anyone that I talked to, right, I was fitting them into the mold of like, how do we make Facebook ads work for you, right? And so the good thing is that, they were interested in Facebook ads, but there was many people. I was just like, well, I guess you're not the right fit. Like, I can't help you, when like I actually could, but like it was like the what my product offering base was just so specific that it cut out a lot of the people that I could have helped. And in the last year, I've really transitioned that, if someone's like, can you help me with marketing? And I'm like, maybe, but like, help me understand, like, what are you actually experiencing? Because, someone will come to me and they'll say, well, we need more leads. And I'm like, well, let's talk about it. Like, are you getting leads currently? What are your channels you're using? What are you doing with those leads? How are the sales going? What's your sales conversion? Are the leads that you're converting into sales, are they staying with your company for a long time? What's your LTV of your customers? Like all of that. And really what happens is there's like an illumination of like, you might think you have a lead problem, and maybe you do, but really like there's elements along the way that it's like, if we plug this one hole here, which is like very actually quite simple to plug, then, you know, putting leads in a leaky bucket is not the answer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, I get that. So I really appreciate you bringing that up, because that's a shift that I've made in my business, and it's changed everything for the trust that my clients have in me and what I do, as well as the longevity of people, and the work that we do together is so much more specific, and it's a more meaningful relationship as well. It's not just, I'm not just an ads vendor anymore. You know what I mean?
Well, that's to see. We see people transition into one of three buckets. You're either a vendor, you're maybe a consultant, which is better, but what you really want to be is the trusted advisor. You want to be the person that somebody thinks of when they're driving home from work, or they're, our CEO and founder founder, he says his most creative space is in the shower. He comes up with his greatest ideas in the shower. Somebody's thinking about different things. It's because you have no outside distraction and your brain is in this creativity mode, and usually it's first thing in the morning. So usually it's early in the morning and you don't suffer from decision fatigue at that point. So you're at your most creative and these things are running through your head. You want to be that person that the potential client or even friend is thinking, gosh, I'm trying to do this, trying to do that. I wonder what Matt would think about that. I wonder what they would say, or that's the trusted advisor. Getting there it's not an overnight thing. There's not a silver bullet to it, but being a world-class communicator and communicating to people on their agenda instead of your agenda. That old saying from Roosevelt, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. Well, Ziegler added 2 words to that. Mr. Ziegler added about them. It's very specific because because we're biologically wired for self-preservation, we are a little bit narcissistic, even though we want to say, no, I'm not. Yeah, we are a little bit, how am I going to solve this? How am I going to fix this? And so we are thinking about how we're going to solve some problems that we have. When you attack problems for people in that vein, if I can demonstrate to you that I really do understand what your goals, objectives, and challenges are, and then I actually, lo and behold, have a solution, a product or a service or something that I can provide for you that actually solves the problem that is the most critical to you, not to me, but to you, it makes a big difference. And when you can communicate that way, you said it earlier, trust. You drive connection and trust, taking you from the vendor to the maybe off and on consultant to the trusted advisor.
Yeah, I love that. I think I'm going to add a line on my website that says, my ultimate goal is for you to think about me in the shower.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time. I love it. Okay. So I love it. I love your focus and what BrainTrust is doing. So here's my question for you. So I think sometimes companies, especially when it comes to communication, because there's so little training when it comes to communication in life. We're just like chucked out into the world and it's like figure it out. And some people are naturally good and then other people struggle. Some people study regardless. What do you find is like the biggest blind spot with companies when it comes to communications that's happening that they're like not even cognizant of? That's like something I'd love to talk about. And then the second question is, what is the type of education that you need to do with the company to like help them have the light bulb go on that like they need a solution for this problem and that brain trust is the answer for that?
Yeah. Great questions. Let me start from back to front. The Gallup comes out every year with their workplace study. And over the last 10 years, you can look at it. It's averaged anywhere from mid to high 60s into this last year, 24. It was about 72%. They're finding 72% of our workforce is disengaged, either actively or passively. So they're either the loud quitters or the quiet quitters. All those different terms have been thrown out there. The quiet quitters are the ones that just come in every day, keep their head down. They don't make any waves. They just need to earn a paycheck, and they're doing the minimal amount of work to make sure that nobody notices them in a negative sense. But because they're doing that, they're not their most creative, which means they're not really their most productive. If they're part of a team, they're not adding the greatest creativity that they have to the team. And we all have creativity, even if we feel like, no, I'm not the creative one. The more people around the table that are putting out even bizarre ideas are adding to the collective creativity of the team and taking us to that next step. So in companies, the big statistic that came out of that is that because of that 72%, high 60s are the quiet quitters, but there's about 13% of that are the active, the loud quitters, the ones that are the cancer at the water cooler. They're the ones that are always bad mouthing the boss, they're bad mouthing the company, or I can't believe this happened. And they bring the rest of the team around them down. It's a bunch of terms here: emotional contagion, Negative emotions are very contagious. So are positive ones. But as soon as you go over that neutral line to negative, you can drag a team down with you very, very quickly. And so that's hurting productivity. Productivity, there's a Gallup's, the Gallup survey believes that there's about a $3 trillion productivity loss in corporate America because of that disengagement. We come in and try and help raise that engagement. What's one of the, there aren't any, there's not really a silver bullet, but there is. There is and there isn't. I go in and we'll talk to managers oftentimes. So one of the first questions that I want to know from the managers, well, how many people are on your team? X number. But pick one person, pick Tom. What are Tom's top 5 values? What drives him? I don't know. How long has he been working with you? 15 years. How long have you known him? 12. Why don't you know what Tom values? Do you not think that if you knew what really got Tom out of bed in the morning, and you really, is it family? Is it dedication? Is it service? I mean, those were the top 3 that my dad instilled in me. What are Tom's top values? It's driving him. And some people say, well, money. Money is never the driver. Money is the outcome, or money is the tool. Let me put it, money is the tool, but there's something that they're using that money for. What's driving that? Is it a vacation thing? Is it a family thing? Is it a toy thing? I got boats, I got hang gliders, whatever it is. And if that were it, now I want to drill down. So you're an adventure person. You're an adventure seeker. Adventure drives you. Can I manage that person? Can I lead? I don't want to be a manager. I want to be a leader. And if I know what drives Tom to be his best, can I not lead him better as a leader coach than if I've had some coaching clients that literally said to me, I don't want to do that personal stuff in the office. There's a difference between doing personal stuff in the office and knowing what motivates and drives your employees so that you can lead and coach them to become their best, which then raises the team level to its best, which, back to the Zig quote, help other people get what they want in life. It'll actually come back to benefit you. So as leaders, it goes back to how do you understand your team? And then as individual team members, it comes down to how do you even help coach up a little bit? If you've got one of those managers that's a manager boss and not a leader coach, how can you help them understand what drives you so that maybe they understand that if they come to you at the end of the day on a Friday and say, I need you to stay late, that's going to be really demotivating because you've got 2 boys that are in sports and a girl, a daughter that is in the band. Friday nights are big at the house with all the stuff that are going on. And for you to miss all that is really driving your level of engagement way down. Now, he could come to you on Monday or Thursday and you'd be happy to stay till 8 or 9 o'clock. But because he doesn't know that about you, he's not leading and coaching you in a way that will help everybody grow.
I love that. I love that. So good. And I really appreciate the practical example of what that actually looks like in terms of a conversation with a potential client. So you're illuminating the problem by just having a simple conversation of how connected are they to the workforce
Yeah.
that they're managing. So good.
Yeah. And we take managers through a values exercise, and then we have them do a leader why story. Similar to when we started the conversation, I told you what I find drives me to do what I do with BrainTrust, which were those 3 values that I saw so vividly my dad demonstrating that I gravitated towards. We take the leaders within these companies through that exercise, but instead of having them create a personal why story, we have them create a leader story. Why was it that you wanted to become a leader? What are the values that drove you to want to lead people? And a lot of times, managers have never had that thought or never gone back in and dove into that because so many of us in corporate America, I was one of them, were promoted beyond our desire, maybe even beyond our capability. early on. Hey, you're the number one salesperson in this group, and we need a sales group leader, so we're promoting you. Really, I just want to be a salesperson. So a lot of people end up leading teams, and they either didn't want to, didn't ever know how, or didn't have training. And to your point earlier, never got communication training because we don't invest enough in actual communication training. We invest in all kinds of other training, but we figure that since people have been talking since they're 2 or 3, they can communicate. And that's probably the biggest fallacy that there is. Just because you can speak doesn't mean that you're communicating with people.
Yeah, I love that. So good, Matt. So good. I am just gleaning so much personally from distilling your personal experience from your decades of experience. So I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, well, thank you.
So there's so many leadership development companies, so many coaching companies out there, right? L&D it's a big industry. What would you say sets BrainTrust apart? Like what makes you guys different?
Difference is the neuroscience and the behavioral psychology. The tack we take and the position that we come from, all of the programs that we develop, whether it's a coaching or a sales training or even service, we basically focus on 3 arenas: the sales arena, the service-based arena, and the leadership arena. And everything that we provide, all the training and all the application and activation that we run through, we do in 3 phases. We'll do an initial phase, which is the visioning. If it's leadership, it is the mind of the customer, if it's a sales type thing, so that we understand the company and or the potential client. And then the second phase is the actual training and skill-based phase. And then the third phase is the reinforcement. Biggest barrier to change, one of the biggest barriers to change, and we've all gone through it in all the different trainings that we've done in our careers, is that we go through training and the boss is over, how's that training? What'd you learn, Dentino? How'd you do this? Let me see that report that they taught you how to do, or this. But as soon as the spotlight goes out, we'll have a tendency to fall back on our highest comfort level, which, unless we've really activated, unless we've figured out those key points to help us activate this new skill, and we've gone through reinforcement to make this our new level of comfort, we'll fall back to our old communication habits, and we'll fall back to our old way of doing things because that's where our comfort is. And in sales specifically, we train our salespeople in our facts, features, functions, and ROI, and it's ingrained in us. And so when we get into a situation, the mind under stress will fall back onto its highest level of learning, which is going to be facts, features, functions, ROI. So when I go in and start talking to a person in a sales situation, I'm immediately going to jump to, here's my stuff, here's how it works, here's why we're better than anybody else. And I haven't made any attempt to really communicate and connect on their agenda, on what's important to them, and on what their challenges are, so that I can now see if there is actually something that I can provide that will solve that challenge that helps them reach that goal. That's key, but we fall back on, here's my stuff. Jeff, our CEO, likes to say it's our watches. We fall back on, hey, I got watches. Here are all my watches. Which one do you want to buy? Because that's our natural level of comfort until we've activated enough that our new level of comfort is thinking about people and what's important to them before what's important to me. Their needs before my needs. Connect before I transact.
So great. I love it. I love the foundational philosophy that drives all the action in the business. It really is inspiring. So if you can share, like, what are some of the things that you guys are like talking about, like in your executive meetings that are either trends that are happening or like or industry things that are going on where you're like, man, like we've got to figure this out, or we need to get on top of this, or we're gonna miss this opportunity, like that sort of vein. Like what are some of the topics you guys are batting around and looking for solutions for?
Well, most big companies that come to us are looking at those types of reports, like you'll get from Gallup or you'll get from Salesforce or Gong or any of those things that talk about sales engagement and how, what is it? 72% of sales pitches either are met with a no or a definite no, or at least a no decision. Well, let me think about it. How do they reverse that trend, or how do they win back some of that 72%? If you can take your sales hit rate, and if you can improve it by 5%, if you can improve it by 15%, what's that? Does that adjust the bottom line number? And that's where large businesses are looking at, how do I start to upscale that so I can start getting that a change at that level? And both, it has to do with both the internal and the external conversations, because if you're internally not motivating your salespeople to change the way that they're speaking and their communication habits, they're just going to fall back on the watches. So the big trends are executives in these organizations not just paying lip service to the training, but being the primary people involved in the training. We're coming into a lot of these corporations, and we're doing the internal coaching with their senior level management down through their mid-level managers, and then bringing the sales techniques, the communication techniques in their sales to their sales teams, so that the communication going out and the communication going up and down are being reinforced. Biggest problem with some just training in general is the boss goes, yeah, go do that training, but the boss doesn't get involved in it. And so again, when the light goes off, when the spotlight, the boss isn't over your shoulder going, give me an example of what you just learned, you fall back on what was most comfortable to you. But when the boss is in there going, hey, Matt, so we just went through this training, and that I've been coached now, so I really want to understand those. Let's go through the values exercise, you and me, because I really want to understand you better, so that as I'm trying to lead you, as I'm trying to coach you, I can coach to the points that are going to be most relevant to you, and not just the cookie cutter. This is what I need you to do. Let me think about it from your perspective. Let me understand both your purpose and the purpose of what we're trying to do. And then let's create a plan and path together. Let's co-create stuff. So if I take the executive leadership through a coaching program that helps them better coach and lead their teams, then those people are able to do the same with the sales. And then that reinforces the communication programs that we do within the sales team, so that they can go out and actually connect with their clients and not just sell clients.
I love that. So powerful. Yeah, and I love how I don't know, the word that's coming to my mind is like systemic. Like your training is, right? Like you're not just like plopping some information, you're like, thanks. It's like you're creating systematic change and throughout the organization. So powerful. Well, Matt, it has been an absolute pleasure and a joy having you on the Marketing Matrix today, and learning about you and your background, and getting refired back into BrainTrust, and what you guys do, and how you're passionate about it. They are lucky to have you, and it's just been a joy having this conversation today. So thank you so much for everything you've brought.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I really enjoyed talking to you. It was fun.
And yeah, we'll have to, I mean, there's like so many things where it's like, oh man, there's like 10 questions in this area. So we'll have to, we'll bring you back. So for people that want to get in touch with BrainTrust or follow you and what you're doing, like give us the details. How do people connect?
Yeah, sure. You can find BrainTrust at braintrustgrowth.com. And you can follow us, that's the website. You can follow us on LinkedIn at the same Brain Trust Growth. If you're looking for anything that I put out there, my LinkedIn is Matt Dentino, and I periodically put little coaching programs out there, here's a reminder, here's a card, here's something to coaching tips. So you can follow me on LinkedIn, and you can do the same on Facebook or Instagram. Just look for my name, Matt Dentino, and that's where you can find us. You'll find all the information that you need to find to go any deeper at either of those places.
I love it. Well, guys, I'm going to put the links to those in the episode notes, so be sure to check them out. Also, just so you know, BrainTrust has a couple books that they have out that I'm looking at them. If you're watching the video, you're seeing them as well. If you're just listening, neuro coaching and neuro selling. So their frameworks are freely available, or not freely, but openly available. And so go ahead and check those resources out as well. And again, thank you guys for listening. Your time is valuable. So for you to spend some time with us means so much. But thank you so much for listening to the Marketing Matrix today.